All right, this is the video for 2A.2, percent proportions, translating and solving. So we are looking at how to use proportions to solve percent problems. And so to start this off, we kind of need to talk about what percent actually means. So if you think about a cent, there's 100 cents in a dollar. So percent we think of as per 100. How to determine a percent given a part, a value you're considering, and the whole, which is our base or comparative value. We use the part divided by the whole times 100 to change from a decimal. So part to whole divided by whole will give you the decimal form. And then we learned that timesing or moving the decimal 2 places to the right changes the decimal to a percent. It is not always that we divide the smaller by the larger. It depends on which one's the part and which one's the whole. So we score 88 out of 150 on an exam. What percent did we score? So we had a part of 88 points is what we earned out of a total possible 150. We're going to times that by 100 to turn it into a percent, all at the same step. So that's going to be, let me make sure I'm sharing my calculator. 88 divided by 150. It's 0.586 repeating. So then we times that by 100. It's 58.6 repeating. So this is roughly 58.6 bar percent. Since they didn't tell us to round, I'm just going to write the exact answer. Remember that bar means repeating decimal. If they'd asked me to round to say the nearest whole percent, that would have bumped up to 59%. If we were rounding to a whole percent. If we round to the nearest 10th of a percent, you will see that sometimes. That means you get to percent form first, and you have to, we already did that. Then you round to the nearest 10th. So that would have been like 58.7% because the sixes were repeating. So that 10th place 6 would get bumped up. So just some different variations of how they could ask you to round it. A test is scored out of 50 points. You earned 55, and because you answered all of them correctly plus a bonus. So you earned 55 out of a total of 50 points. So you're going to have more than 100% on your exam in this scenario. So 55 divided by 50, that's 1.1 times 100. That's 110%. Okay. How to determine what value is a specific percentage of a base or a comparative value given the percent and the base. So change the percent to decimal form, which means dividing by 100 or move your decimal 2 places to the left and then multiply by the base. So if someone's asking you, find a percent of a number, that is when we do decimal form of the percent times the number, okay? So 43% of 89 would be 0.43 times 89. This one would be 0.04 of 94. This one you have to be careful. 2 places to the left is 1.17 of 43. So let's work each of these out. So 0.43 times 89 is, they said round to the nearest 10th, so 38.3. 0.04 times 94. That rounded to the nearest 10th, that would be 3.76 would be 3.8. And then 1.17 times 43. Rounded to the nearest 10th would be 50.3 since it was 50.31. So just following the rounding rules on each of these, I rounded them each to the nearest 10th. How to find the base given the percentage and the part. So this is the type most students miss. So notice this time we are saying 89 is 43% of what number? So when we're doing it this way, when we're looking for the of what number, it's divide the part by the percentage in decimal form. So 89 divided by 0.43 will tell you the whole. Okay. So this one would be 127 point, oh no, sorry, I read this backwards. 8.5% of what number? Oh no, we're still looking for the of what number, which is the whole, is 127.5. So 127.5 divided by the 0.085, because that would be moving that 2 places to the left, equals what whole? Okay, so let's work those out. So 89 divided by 0.43, round to the nearest tenth. So that's going to be approximately 20, what was that? Oh, this one's going to bump up. I'm going to write it out first. 206.97 for rounding to the nearest tenth. That 7 is going to bump that 9 up, which travels because it becomes a 10 and bumps up our 6. So it'll be 207.0 to the nearest tenth. And then 127.5 divided by 0.085 is 1500. That comes out exact. Okay. So there's going to be better ways of doing these than trying to memorize when do I multiply and when do I divide, but this is the general idea of what's going on. And like I said, we're going to learn some equation methods to proportions and equations to help us solve these more accurately each time. So like I said, many students have a hard time remembering the different rules or procedures of the above. We will look at 2 specific methods that can be used to solve percentage problems, the proportion method and the percent equation. Each one has their own advantages or disadvantages, and it does become a matter of preference most of the time from each student. So using the proportion method for solving percent questions can make the task much easier. The same proportion template can be used for all of the above types of problems. Additionally, the percent does not need to be converted to a decimal when you use proportion method. And when you're looking for a percent, you get the answer already in percent form. That's why many students prefer the proportion method. If you do your percent equation method, you're going to translate your percent problem into blank is what percent of what. Essentially, we write that as a sentence, and then we use that to make our equation. So we're going to show you both methods. So these are just different sayings. I like is over of equals percent over 100. That's the one I learned, but this is also really good. Part over a whole equals percent over 100. Amount over base equals percent over 100. New over old equals percent over 100. So all of those are different ways of thinking about this proportion method. The most common one when we're doing with just sentences like this is the is over of, because you actually see the words usually is and of in the problem. So let's start setting these up and cross multiplying on them. So this one says 60 is 57% of what number? So is the 60. So 60 is 57 is the percent on top. 100 is always a free spot. You know it's 100 because it's over the percentage part. What number we don't know. So the of, we don't know the of, we don't know the whole. Okay, we know the part, but not the whole. So if we cross multiply on this, I'm not going to show all my work on these because I don't have a lot of space. So 60 times 100 is 6,000 divided by 57. And I'm supposed to have directions on this. Sometimes I don't always cross over. So round to 2 decimal places on all these. So this will be 105.26. So X is approximately 105.26. All right, let's look at the next one. 43 is what percent of 90? So we don't know our percentage this time. So 43 is the part, of is the whole, so 90. Don't know my percent, over 100. So 43 times 100 divided by 90, and then rounded 2 decimal places will be 47.78. And that's going to be our percentage. So I need to put a percent sign on that one. Okay. What is 15% of 92? So I don't know my is. I know the of, which is the 92. Percent is 15 over 100. So we're doing 92 times 15 divided by 100. That is 13.8. So we don't need to round that one because it's less than 2 decimal places. And then this is what number is, so we don't know our is, of 45. So that's our part, or excuse me, our whole. And then we're doing 132% over 100. Just to note, anytime your percentage is more than 100, the top number is going to be bigger than your bottom number, just so that you can see that you're doing things right. So 45 times 132 is 5,940 divided by 100 is 59.4. Again, did not have to round to the 2 decimal places. 821 is 210% of what number? So I'm expecting a smaller number on the bottom because this is saying it's 210% of the original number. So times 100 divided by 210, I got 390.95. We round to 2 decimal places. And then for the last one, 8.25%. So that's going to go over 100 of what number? So we don't know the whole, is 7.26. And this one has units on it, so we're going to put dollars on the final answer as well. So this will be 7.26 times 100 divided by the 8.25. That is going to be $88. Okay. And then we just have a couple of these, 3 different ones to set up, and that will be the end of this video. So set up the percent proportion and then solve, round to the nearest whole number as needed. So we do have directions on this one. In a tree planting project, 300 of the 410 trees planted were still living 1 year later. What percent of the trees were still living? So we don't really have 3 numbers here that you see, but we do see the word what percent. So we can use our percent equation. It's 300 of the 410. So see, they kind of mess you up. People see the word of closer to 300 and they think, oh, that's the of. No, it's 300 of the 410. So the part is the 300, the whole is the 410. And then this is percent we're looking for out of 100. So if we cross multiply on this one, that's 300. It always wants to add an extra 0 times 100 divided by 410, and we're supposed to round to the nearest whole percent. So this is 73% because it was 73.1 something. So 73% of those trees are alive. After 4 months, Jasmine lost 9% of her original weight. She lost 15.3 pounds. What was her original weight? So the part is what she lost. The whole would be her original weight. And we know that the part she lost was 9% of her whole original weight. So this is going to be 15.3 times 100 divided by 9. She had an original weight of 170 pounds. And then the last one in section 2A.2 is 1 serving of vegetables has 96 grams of protein, which is 30% of the recommended daily amount. So the recommended daily amount is the whole. Find the recommended daily amount of protein. So 96 is the part that we had in our serving, which is 30% of the whole. So just to show you kind of what I do expect, I didn't write it on all of mine because I didn't give myself a lot of room for scratch work. Show the multiplication step and then the division step. So 9600 divided by 30 is 320 grams of protein. That's what you should have as your recommended daily amount according to this problem. Okay, that is the end of 2A.2.